Through one scene, a plane is present. I am too. At some point, it was hanging under it. It was cool. It was fun to do. I liked it. Have you seen the exciting movie True Lies and thought you knew everything about it? Don't believe it. The movie has secrets and controversies that have hurt its image for years, even though it has great humor and exciting stunts. The truth behind the scenes is more dramatic than what you see. People got hurt on the set, and there were arguments over how certain roles were played, not to mention the scene where the beautiful Jamie Lee Curtis did not leave anything to the imagination. Try not to gasp when you hear that one. Get ready to be shocked as we take you behind the scenes of True Lies and show you the crazy things you might have missed while watching. Jamie's hot dance, the trick with the helicopter, and renting a jet. Arnold Schwarzenegger played her husband in the movie True Lies, and in a famous scene, she did a hot dance for him. A lot of people don't know this though, but something strange happened at the dance. Before we talk about it, we bet that's not the only thing in the movie's bloopers that will surprise you. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis wouldn't use a stunt double when she was making a dangerous scene for True Lies. She planned to pull off the trick herself. Curtis had to hang from a chopper over the ocean for the scene. A trained trick person could have done it, but Curtis insisted on doing it herself. Curtis was ready for the task because she is a brave actress. James Cameron, the director, wanted to use an action double, but Curtis said no. She thought that if Cameron was willing to film the scene while riding in the helicopter, then the performer should also be ready to do the same. Cameron was asked by Curtis where he would be during the dangerous shooting from above. Curtis promised to do the same thing when he said he'd be hanging from the chopper door to film her up close. To make the act even harder, Curtis wanted to do it on her 36th birthday, which was a big deal for her. She practiced each move for weeks, getting her mind and body ready for the difficult job. When the day of the trick came, Curtis was incredibly brave. Even though there were risks, she stayed calm and focused as the chopper sped up to 70 miles per hour and pulled her body out of the safety of the craft. In spite of the worry, she had to stay calm and keep her form. A lot of people laughed out loud when Tom Arnold played the funny friend Albert Gibson in the movie True Lies. However, one of the most memorable lines wasn't in the original plot. Arnold himself added it right then and there. This line came from the problems he was having in his marriage. Arnold Schwarzenegger played Harry Tasker, and Gibson talked to him about his thoughts that his wife Helen was cheating on him in one scene. During this talk, Gibson told a story about a messy breakup he went through. He told her how angry he was that she had taken everything from the fridge, even the ice cube trays. It's interesting that this joke about the ice cube boxes wasn't planned ahead of time. It was based on Tom Arnold's life at the time. He was getting a public divorce from Roseanne Barr, who was his wife at the time. There were reports that she had stolen the ice cube trays from their home to get back at him. Arnold told director James Cameron this story. Cameron thought it would make for a funny movie and chose to use it. He even had Arnold say the line during Gibson and Tasker's touching chat. The joke was a great way to show Gibson as a bitter man who was still hurting from his failed marriage. His anger over something so small as the ice cube boxes showed how bitter people often feel after a divorce. James Cameron, the director of True Lies, insisted on using real military planes, even if it meant renting 3 Marine Harrier fighter jets from the US government. It cost a huge $100,000 to make this choice, which wasn't simple or cheap. It cost the company that made these high-tech jets $2,410 an hour to fly them. The best part is that the beautiful footage Cameron got was worth every penny. It gave it a level of reality that visual effects just couldn't match. Spencer Trilby, played by the legendary actor Charlton Heston in True Lies, was based on Nick Fury from Marvel Comics. Trilby wore an eye patch and was in charge of a hidden government group that fought terrorism, just like Fury. Omega Sector, Trilby's company, looked a lot like Fury's famous shield and strike outfits. Like Fury, Trilby led a group of highly trained spies who worked undercover to fight global threats. They learned how to dance the tango and rewrite comedies. You may not know this, but Arnold Schwarzenegger faced a task he had never faced before. It was getting good at dancing the tango. In one scene, his character Harry had to dance the tango with Jamie Lee Curtis, who played his wife on screen. This was very different from the action-packed parts he usually plays, so he had to show a new skill. Schwarzenegger began a tough 6-month course of tango lessons to get ready for this love dance scene. He worked very hard to improve his moves with the help of skilled teachers. He got ideas from Al Pacino's famous tango routines in In Scent of a Woman, and he tried to be as good as or even better than Pacino. Schwarzenegger took on the task with the same drive and focus on perfection that he always shows. He thought it was a chance to show how versatile he was as a performer. Even though the training was hard, his chemistry and accuracy with Curtis made their tango performance better. When it was finally Harry's turn to grab Helen by the arms and lead her to the dance floor, Schwarzenegger moved with confidence and style. After a lot of hard work, he put on a show that showed a different side of the action star. We should now look into the question of where Harry Tasker got the grenades he used in the scene with the terrorists. Even though it's not unusual for a great spy like Tasker to have grenades, these have a story that wasn't included in the movie. At first, there was a scene where a woman named Juno Skinner tries to take Harry's wife, Helen, by putting a grenade between her legs. Helen is told to keep her legs together so as not to set it off. Helen replies with a sarcastic comment about Skinner's experience in that situation. She is brave and smart. Later, after getting away, Harry gets his wife's bomb back by safely repinning the trigger with her diamond earring. Because of this smart move, Harry will be able to use the grenade against the attackers in the future. This scene had to be cut to keep the story moving along, but it would have made the big moment when Harry uses the bomb more tense and ironic. Without this background, Harry's sudden skill with the grenade might seem a little strange in a movie that has a good story. These aren't the only shocking things about the movie. I bet you didn't guess this one would come up. When James Cameron was hired to direct True Lies, he wanted to make the story more funny. At first, outside writers tried to add jokes to the plot, but Cameron wasn't happy with it. So he did something about it himself and rewrote all the funny parts, even though he was known for making silent movies like Aliens and Terminator 2. Everyone was shocked when Cameron told great lies with a great sense of fun. He carefully changed the dialogue and story points to fit his funny style, which was very different from what was written. After much thought, Cameron only used 2 jokes from the original draft in the movie. One of these was Arnold Schwarzenegger's famous "You're fired" line, which he said in a famous scene in which he fired a rocket at a bad guy. Some of the funniest parts of the movie came from Cameron's unusual approach, like Tom Arnold's random jokes and Jamie Lee Curtis's mix of glitz and self-deprecating humor. It almost didn't happen for Tom Arnold to play the silly sidekick Albert Gibson in True Lies, which was his dream part. The company 20th Century Fox didn't want Arnold to be in it first because of his bad reputation. At the time, Arnold was still dealing with the effects of his messy split from Roseanne Barr, the actress. Arnold's image was ruined by the public split, which was full of rumors of cheating and legal battles. It made him a controversial Hollywood star, but Arnold got the part in the end, even though the studio had doubts. Fox execs were afraid to bring someone to one of their most important movies who had a history of getting bad press. But director James Cameron was set on choosing Arnold for the part because he thought Arnold's lively acting and ability to make things up on the spot would make Schwarzenegger's character more funny. Cameron wanted Arnold so badly that he was ready to take the idea to another studio if Fox said no. Fox finally gave in to Cameron's request to cast Arnold in True Lies because they didn't want to lose their best director. It worked out well in the end. When the movie came out, both critics and viewers praised his comedic skills and how well he got along with Schwarzenegger. Some people at Fox were worried about Arnold's personal problems at first, and they might have missed one of the show's best acts. Thank goodness the risk paid off in the end. After that, Eliza Dushku got hurt during a trick. Something really bad happened a few years after True Lies came out. Eliza Dushku said some very bad things about how she was treated as a child performer on the movie set. In the movie, she was the daughter of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis. She said that one of the actors had behaved in a very inappropriate way toward her, and that the crew had also hurt her because they were careless. There's more. Also, she said that when she was only 12, a stunt planner on the production team, who she didn't name, made sexual advances and rude flirtatious comments toward her. Because of how bad these claimed comments and innuendos were, Eliza's parents went to court and asked the studio to pay their daughter a certain amount of money. Who do you think was in charge of the stunts when the safety equipment that was supposed to keep her safe didn't work during a dangerous act? News from her interviews says that she hit her ribs on a fighting platform by accident after being thrown into the air while the cameras were still rolling. After what happened with True Lies, Eliza Dushku makes sure to stay out of the public eye. However, her latest claims have hurt the film's reputation for not following proper set organization because they were trying to save money. The near-death experience and 911 messed up the second part. We hinted at that sexy scene at the beginning of the movie. Schwarzenegger and the watchers were left with nothing to think about as Curtis danced and took off her clothes. She slipped and fell to the floor. At first, people thought it wasn't planned and just happened while they were shooting. But Curtis later said it was planned, even though she didn't want to have to fall more than twice in heels because she knew she could twist her ankle easily. She kept her cool and continued the dance like nothing happened. Schwarzenegger's character Harry Tasker looked surprised when she fell, but then he also played along and got back into the scene. His real short surprise made the scene even funnier. Instead of redoing the scene, the director, James Cameron, chose to keep it in the movie. He thought that Curtis and Schwarzenegger's genuine emotions made the scene even better. In the end, they didn't change anything about the video. They planned to continue the story of spy Harry Tasker and his wife Helen into the late 1990s. Over the years, the creative team worked hard to write a story that not only matched but also topped the original's daring set pieces. There should have been a sequel, which could have been another huge hit, but fans were let down when it was canceled. After September 11th, and as people became more afraid of extremism, it became clear that making an action movie about terrorists was no longer a good idea. James Cameron knew that making light of such an important subject would come across as rude and offensive, even though it could have made them a lot of money. After September 11th, 2001, people were scared to do anything, even fly on planes, in the early 2000s. The public didn't feel emotionally ready for a sequel in which Harry faces bad guys from the Middle East. For some reason, the funny parts of True Lies that were supposed to balance out the action seemed to be missing what was really going on and what was happening outside of the fourth wall. As they filmed a big part of the movie, Call with Death, it happened during a scene with a big passenger jet on the runway of an Air Force base. It was planned for Schwarzenegger's character to ride along on the outside of the taxiing plane as it got ready to take off, but he didn't know that there had been a last-minute misunderstanding between the stunt team and the pilots. The pilots thought Schwarzenegger had given them the signal to separate from the plane before takeoff, so they cranked up the jet engines to full blast. When it came out in 1994, right after the movie, the goal was to build on its success. In the game, players take on the role of Harry Tasker and fight bad guys with cool gadgets and guns all over the world. A big game company, Pandemic Studios, made the True Lies video game, and they had the official license, but it didn't sell very well. People didn't pay much attention to the True Lies game when it came out for the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and PC. At the time, movie-based games were more famous than True Lies, so it didn't get much attention. But over time, a small group of people who collect old games became fans of the game. Still, a lot of people who really like the James Cameron movie don't know there's a game based on it. If you do find the game after watching this movie, know that people who have played it say it's not very good. People have said that it lacked the movie's exciting scenes and interesting conversation. There was also a lot of backlash and criticism after the movie came out about how it used Arab and Middle Eastern figures as terrorist bad guys. True Lies wasn't meant to talk about serious political problems, but many people were upset by how it used stereotypes and wanted Hollywood to show cultures more accurately. One of the main points of disagreement was how Art Malek played the bad guy Salim Abu Aziz. Malek's part relied heavily on exaggerated movements and a strong accent, which quickly made people think of him as a scary Arab. People didn't like Arabs very much at the time, especially after the Gulf War. They thought that playing that part, especially in a high-budget action movie, added to the negative ideas people had about Arabs. Malik, who is of Pakistani descent, got in trouble for creating a character with all the different ethnicities and views of the Middle East into one very violent person, which was seen as stereotypical. Some people said that telling true lies about minority groups made people more afraid and prejudiced against them without reason. The fights about Malik's part are still sometimes the talk of the town, which gets fans of the entertainment business riled up. Are you one of these fans by chance? What do you think about the part? In a different part of the movie, Harry Tasker fights with some bad guys in a bathroom. At first, this fight was meant to last a lot longer and be a lot tougher. They planned for it to be a big fight with Harry going up against a group of armed attackers by himself. The goal was to make it look as real as possible, and the famous stunt planner Benny Dobbins planned the whole thing. To make this story more epic, Harry would have smashed the bathroom with daily items like toilet plungers as weapons, killing each bad guy one by one in a very violent and furious way. Benny Dobbins had great plans for how to film this fight. He wanted to use a lot of different camera angles and lots of fancy moves. As they made plans, though, they realized it might be too much. They were afraid that the violence and complexity of the scene would get out of hand and be too much for the audience to handle, so they had to change their plans and shorten and calm down the fight. The short version is still fun to watch, but it doesn't have the same effect as the original idea of Harry's sheer determination helping him win against all odds. Do you remember all of these facts? Did you notice the mistakes and bloopers when you saw the movie for the first time? In the comments, tell us which one shocked you the most. Thanks for seeing this video through to the end. We hope you had a great time and look forward to seeing you at the next one. Don't forget to tell your friends about our station and leave a. It's very important.